the phrase Dei Gratia in his title to show that his rule depended upon God's grace. The Roman side emphasized universality, centralized international leadership, regulated doctrinal development based upon a common liturgy, common way of worship, and a common date of Easter. Sacramentally linked by an ordered episcopal structure to the See of Rome, it was crucially important for them that the Church in England be in communion with the worldwide Church. I think most of us can see even today in the Roman Catholic Church, it's very, very important for Benedict XVI that everybody in the Catholic Church think and do more or less the same way that he does. That's a very important point in the Roman Catholic Church. The Anglican tradition is a bit more diverse in this regard. And of course, Protestant traditions in Christianity are even more diverse. But so you can say that there's the Roman side, which is the side that he is on, is very much in favor of having everything together and of marching in step one with another. The Pope at that time existed, but was not as strong as he is now. Compared then with the Celtic side, which is much more individualistic, and probably a number of you are not particularly religious at all. But if you are, the question is, do you follow a set of rules in your own church or your own religion, or do you simply say, I'm going to do what I want to do? And the Celts, generally speaking, were the latter. And they said, yes, they would say, yes, I'm a Christian, and so forth, and you can keep Easter when you want, but I'm going to do it such and such a way, or something like that. It's always been a puzzle to me why they were so insistent on men's hairstyles, and that all the men's hairstyles had to have all the hair cut from the front back to midway, and so forth, why that was supposed to be a point of uniformity. But on the other hand, they couldn't agree on celebrating the same feast days. So there we are. So I come to my final point. Already, at this very early juncture in Christianity in England, and we can see, we will be seeing when we look at the pictorial presentation, we can see further evidences of this, but already this early, there are two different doctrines of the church. That's what ecclesiology is, the doctrine of the church. In Britain, competing with each other. One that sees the church as a collection of free spirits on pilgrimage, and another that sees the church as a visible, structured society with fixed diocesan boundaries and clear rules of procedure. Bede, remember he's on the Roman side, Bede somewhat derisively portrays the Celts, the former, as, this is a quote from him, a mere handful of people in one corner of one of the remotest islands in the world. In comparison to the already well-established Roman customs, and this is another quote from Bede, of the universal church which is spread throughout the world. Now these kind of quotations are often still given today in arguments between Roman Catholics in England and the official established Church of England. And the Roman Catholics will say, who are these Anglicans and so forth? They continue to want to do their own thing, and they don't want to collaborate and cooperate, get the act together. Already Bede is noticing this back in his time. There's no question which side Bede is on, and I would add no question as to which side the present Pope would choose. He would obviously be on the Roman side of things and not the Celtic side. Back at the Synod of Whitby in 664 or today. Now, in my all too brief epitome of Bede's history here, and there's much more to it than what I presented at this time, I think we can already begin to see some of the tensions that will continue to grow and struggle within worldwide Anglicanism, even within worldwide Christianity today, up to the present. Is it too much to see many of the stresses and strains of Christian churches today as having been prefigured back in Eve's time? Do not most of us at least have some sympathy with both of the sides that were in debate at Whitby? Certainly I do myself. I feel at times that I can see it going the Celtic way, other times the Roman way. I don't know whether you studied philosophy in your university here, but there was a very famous illustration from the 14th century in French philosophy of it's called Buridan's ass. And this was a donkey, it was an ass. And it was very hungry and it wanted to eat. And it was very hungry. And there were two equally attractive, equidistant stacks of hay. And so Buridan's ass would look in one direction. Yes, yes, yes. And start moving in this direction. But now wait, there's this other side over here. Maybe I should go in this direction. And so they would go back in this direction. And he would say, the donkey would say, you know, well, maybe I should really partake of that stack of hay. No, you know, this was. And they would go back and forth. And eventually, Buridan's ass died of starvation because he couldn't decide which side he wanted to be on. So there are these kind of sort of choices that we sometimes face with when we go through life in this regard. Which side are we going to be on? And for me at least, I have some sympathies with both sides. Or to put the question in more modern terms, even with both sides in the debates over human sexuality today. Most Christians, is it really necessary for Christians to split apart because the only solution is an either-or solution? It seems to me, in a way, and far be it from me to make a political statement, it seems to me here in Kosovo that you are trying to achieve a both-and solution that is fair to all the different parties involved in a way that can be moderately satisfactory to all the sides, rather than simply one side is the winners and the other side is the losers. Now, that's probably too overtly political a statement, and probably is too simplified a way. But it seems to me, when we look back here at the Celtic and the Roman sides, as presented in the Venerable Bede's history, can the churches find a way forward that incorporates both traditional and postmodernist approaches? Can you find a way forward that somehow can synthesize? I don't know, again, how much philosophy you study. For me, my favorite religious philosopher is Thomas Aquinas from the 13th century, because he always insisted that there had to be a synthesis, and that in any debate in a public university in Paris or somewhere in the Middle Ages, both sides would be presented, and then the duty of the professor was to bring the two sides together in such a way that they could see that somehow both sides could live together. Now, maybe not perfectly, but they could still have some degree of wins, illusions. Well, that's the story of Buridan's donkey. It's Thomas Aquinas, but it's also begins in Bede. And so already in the writing of Bede, we see the beginnings of these struggles. And they obviously continue with us today. Now, Dr. All, I think maybe it would be best for us to look briefly at these, that PowerPoint presentation, and then open to questions afterwards.
Yes, please.
Take it away.
Take it away.
So we shift in the other direction. So this is the Venerable Bede and the foundations of Anglicanism. And first of all, next slide, we look at some evidences of pre-Christian religion in Britain that are not mentioned in Bede's history. In other words, he is attempting to be, don't turn yet, but that's all right. He is attempting to be someone who is telling all that he knows about Christianity in England. But he's, after all, he's writing in the 730s, and he doesn't have the kind of travel abilities that we have today. So some things, even religion before Christianity in Britain, Bede doesn't know about and he doesn't mention. So the first, next slide, is evidence of liturgical worship in pre-Christian Britain, Stonehenge, from 1800 to 1400 BC. And I gather you in this country have some of these great megalith sort of standing stones that you did have at one time in this country. I've seen in paintings of one of your local painters here, some examples of these. And people would position these stones in such a way that they were linked to the shining of the sun. And they could tell the sun at the time by the sun's rays cast upon these stones. And this place is called Stonehenge. Next. A rather small group also in Britain called the Druids used these stones. And later on, the Christian missionaries adapted these stones with Christian symbols. So if you see you have a cross that's been imprinted or inscribed upon this stone. And originally it was simply another like Stonehenge, but now it has a particular symbol on it, and they have Christianized it, as it were. Next slide. There are various other religions in early England that Bede probably doesn't know too much about, including Mithraism and Mithras, was a particular Roman god that was worshipped, was very popular in the Roman army. And Mithras, their particular cult, their religion, one of the things, they had a liturgical calendar that was similar, but they were known for exclusion of women. And many Christians today think, well, Christianity is very unfair still to women, and it should be total equality. And I happen to agree with that view. However, Christianity was much more progressive about the place of women back in this time than were some of the other religions, such as the cult of Mithras, and which excluded women. So then we turn next to evidences of early Christianity in Britain that were possibly known to be, because some of them were not known. We've looked at those. Now some who were possibly known to be. Next slide. And Glastonbury is one place. These are just the ruins of it there. But from very, very early, there were traditions that Glastonbury was